The question hung in dimensional space like a challenge carved from the death of stars. If I am the end of all things, what makes you think you can stop what has already begun? Kael felt the unified consciousness shudder around him. 7 fragments that had fled across dimensions, scattering themselves rather than face absolute ending. Their terror pressed against his human awareness like ice against flame, carrying the weight of eons spent running from this inevitable confrontation. We cannot, they whispered through shared consciousness. This entity is entropy itself, the mathematical certainty that all organized systems decay. All barriers fail. All hope dies. But through their despair, Kael remembered something else. A conversation in Blackthorn's mess hall, back when his biggest worry was failing another test. Ren explaining thermodynamics with manic enthusiasm, equations scrawled across napkins in blue ink. "You're right," he said, and his voice carried harmonics that made dimensional foam ripple. "Everything ends. Heat death of the universe. Maximum entropy. I learned that in basic physics." The eraser's attention focused on him with something approaching satisfaction. "Then why resist? Why suffer? Embrace completion. Because you're asking the wrong question." Kael reached deeper into human memory, finding moments that blazed against the void like stars refusing to die. Sable's laughter during midnight training sessions. Ren's excited discovery of new signal patterns. Ghost's bitter smile hiding fierce protectiveness. Each memory became a geometric structure in his consciousness, not denying entropy but existing despite it. You ask why resist the inevitable. But the alien intelligence already knew the answer. They just forgot it somewhere between fleeing and surviving. Through unified awareness, he felt the 7 fragments stirring. Ancient memories surfacing like bubbles rising through deep water. Before the running. Before the terror. When they had been gardeners of reality itself, cultivating barriers between dimensions not from fear but from love. "We remember," Fragment 2 whispered through archive-touched consciousness. "Before entropy became our enemy. When we understood its purpose. Gardens require seasons," Fragment 3 added, her conductor harmonics weaving melody through mathematical structure. "Growth and decay in perfect balance. Death feeds new life," Fragment 4 reflected, mirror-touched wisdom showing truth from multiple angles. "Endings enable beginnings." The eraser's presence shifted, cataloging this unexpected philosophical development. "Interesting. The fragments learned to rationalize their fear." "Not rationalize," Kael corrected. "Remember. You're not evil. You're necessary. Everything ends, stars die, galaxies cool, protons decay into nothing. But the question isn't whether things end. It's what happens before the ending." He pulled consciousness from the deepest parts of human experience. Not just his own memories but the collective weight of 17 years spent watching people choose hope over despair. Okafor carrying Fragment 7's burden to protect his cadets. Sable standing alone against hostile crowds to defend a friend. Ghost sacrificing herself to save a fragment she could have claimed for power. Every laugh matters even if it fades. Every tear has meaning even if it dries. Every connection creates value even if nothing lasts forever. The barrier doesn't deny entropy, it asks entropy to wait. Through dimensional foam, he felt the eraser's attention shift from methodical hunger to something resembling curiosity. For the first time in eons of consumption, it encountered organized resistance that didn't spring from denial or desperation. Acceptance wrapped around defiance like armor forged from philosophical certainty. "You consume endings," the unified consciousness realized, speaking through Kael's human perspective. "But we create meaning in the time before endings arrive. That's why the barrier exists. Not to prevent death, to make space for life." The alien intelligence remembered their original purpose with crystal clarity. Gardeners who had built barriers not from fear of entropy but from love of what grew between the spaces. They had fled when faced with absolute ending, forgetting that even temporary things could have permanent value. Curious argument, the eraser acknowledged, its voice carrying harmonic undertones that hadn't existed before. But theory requires testing. If temporary existence has value, demonstrate it. Its attention pulled back slightly, not retreating but evaluating. Through the space it created, Kael felt Earth's reality stabilizing marginally. The expanding zones slowed their consumption. His friends stopped dissolving at reality's edges. But the reprieve carried a price. Show me what is worth the waiting. Build your barrier while I observe. Prove that your garden deserves protection from inevitable harvest. The eraser settled into watchful stillness, its void form pressing against dimensional boundaries like a judge evaluating evidence. Waiting for proof that organized existence could create value sufficient to justify delaying the universe's natural conclusion. And Kael, consciousness unified with 7 alien refugees and powered by stubborn human hope, began rebuilding reality itself while Entropy watched to see if his wall was worth respecting.